This episode is brought to you by Prime. What if you had one more chance with the one that got away?
Sam.
You came home.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune. Every Year After follows childhood friends Sam and Percy as they reunite in the dreamy, nostalgic lakeside town of Barry's Bay.
Love can be hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to find that person, never let go.
A second chance at first love. Every Year After. Streaming June 10th, only on Prime.
The road into Zennor winds slowly through the western edge of Cornwall, where the land rises into rough fields and granite hills before falling suddenly toward the Atlantic. Even on clear days, the village can feel isolated, sitting quietly above the sea with only narrow lanes and old stone hedges connecting it to the rest of the coast. At the centre of the village stands St. Senara's church, a building whose origins stretch back to the Norman period, though the site itself is likely older still. Like many Cornish churches, it grew gradually over centuries as the small fishing and farming community around it changed with the landscape. The granite tower belongs largely to the 15th century, while inside the church are carved wooden bench ends, worn smooth by hundreds of years of use. Among those carvings is the object that made Zennor famous far beyond Cornwall itself, a mermaid. The figure is genuine and still survives inside the church today, carved into one of the medieval bench ends. She holds a mirror and comb, symbols commonly associated during the Middle Ages with vanity and temptation. Similar carvings appear in churches elsewhere in Britain, where they were used as religious imagery rather than evidence of local legend. Historians generally believe the carving at Zennor was created in the late 15th century as part of that wider medieval tradition. The story attached to it seems to have developed later. According to Cornish folklore, a mysterious woman began attending services at St. Senara's church many centuries ago. She arrived alone each Sunday and would sit quietly near the back, saying little and leaving as soon as the service ended. Local people were said to have grown uneasy around her, not because she behaved strangely, but because there was something about her that felt distant and unfamiliar. Her attention, according to the story, was fixed on a young singer named Matthew Truella. Modern retellings usually describe him as a chorister connected with the church, though the older versions of the legend vary slightly in their details. What remains consistent is the idea that the woman returned repeatedly to hear him sing. Week after week, she listened in silence, while the villagers gradually became suspicious of her presence. Then one day, both of them disappeared. No explanation was ever found. Searches were supposedly carried out along the nearby cliffs and fields, but neither the woman nor the singer could be located. Sometime later, a local fisherman claimed to have encountered a mermaid near Pendour Cove, below the village. According to the legend, the creature told him that she had taken the young singer beneath the sea, where the two now lived together. The cove became known as Mermaid Cove, a name it still carries today. Like many coastal legends, the story almost certainly evolved gradually over time, rather than emerging from a single event. There is no historical evidence that a chorister vanished from Zennor, nor any medieval record describing such an encounter. The legend belongs firmly to folklore rather than documented history, yet it survived because it suited the landscape and the community that created it. The sea shaped every part of life in places like Zennor. Fishing villages along the Cornish coast lived with constant uncertainty, and disappearances at sea were not uncommon. In isolated communities, stories often grew around those absences. Over time, folklore became a way of explaining what could not easily be understood. There are also older traditions throughout Cornwall involving sea spirits, mermaids, and phantom voices heard along the coast. Zennor simply became attached to one of the most enduring versions of those stories, helped by the survival of the carving itself inside the church. Even today, visitors still walk the cliffs above Pendour Cove and repeat the old claim that singing can sometimes be heard rising faintly from below the rocks. Such stories are impossible to verify and are best understood as part of a continuing folklore surrounding the area. Sound behaves strangely around the Cornish coastline, particularly in narrow coves where echoes travel across the water and cliffs distort distance. In places already tied strongly to local legend, ordinary sounds can easily become absorbed into the story itself. Inside St. Senara's church, the Mermaid Chair remains quietly in place among the other medieval carvings. Time has softened its details, darkening the oak and wearing away some of the finer lines. It feels less theatrical in person than many expect. More than anything, it feels old. And perhaps that is why the legend has endured for so long. Not because it proves anything supernatural happened there, but because the story grew naturally from the landscape around it, from the isolation of the village, from the uncertainty of the sea, from an ancient carving whose original meaning had long since faded from memory. Zennor itself remains a quiet place, particularly outside the summer months. The church still stands above the Atlantic winds, and the paths still lead down toward the dark rocks of Pendour Cove. Whether the story began as folklore explaining a carving, or whether the older memories shaped the legend first, it has become impossible now to separate the two completely. The mermaid remains in the church, and the story remains with the sea. Thank you for listening to Ghost Tales by the Fireside. If you enjoy these stories, you can support the podcast and get access to MP3s over on Buy Me a Coffee at £1.50 each, or free if you're a member. You can find everything at ghosttales.co.uk and follow on Facebook and Instagram at Ghost Tales Podcast.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.